Good evening, everyone. I am the storyteller, and I am here to help you fall asleep with these horror stories from Onlyfans. So, before we begin, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. I'd love to know where you're from and what time you're watching this, so leave it in the comments. When you're ready, get comfortable and relax. This is something I don't really talk about much, even to my closest friends. It's one of those things I'd rather forget, but sometimes I feel like I need to let it out because it still haunts me quite a bit. It happened about a year and a half ago during a spring break that seemed like it was going to be normal, but ended up being one of the scariest experiences of my life. At the time, I was a TikTok live streamer and a part-time model. I lived in Miami, and my online presence was growing fast. I focused mostly on fitness and beauty content, but like many others, I realized the need to monetize my fame further. That's when I created my Onlyfans account. It became my main source of income, offering exclusive behind-the-scenes content and personal interactions. I never had any serious problems with weird fans, and I prided myself on having a respectful community. I became close friends with a fellow creator named Chloe. She was an amazing dancer and had a massive following due to her energetic live streams. She was a little more established than me and always seemed to be working on high-profile projects. One night, while we were chatting, she told me she had landed a major collaboration with a European production company. A huge opportunity to do a series of exclusive streams and photo shoots in a rented luxury villa outside of Tampa. They were looking for a second model, and Chloe immediately thought of me. The pay was phenomenal, and the exposure would be massive. The company's representative, a woman named Elsa, contacted me. She was incredibly professional, sending contracts with legitimate-looking company logos and an extremely detailed itinerary. The whole thing seemed completely above board. The company was supposedly known for producing high-end adult travel content. TV? Ikame. And Chloe and I took a train up to Tampa. We were met at the station by a sleek black SUV. The driver, a muscular man with silent, watchful eyes, introduced himself as Marcus. He barely spoke during the entire 2-hour drive out of the city and deep into a remote, heavily wooded area. As we drove, I noticed the GPS signal on my phone started to drop out. We finally arrived at a huge, isolated villa, surrounded by a high, electric fence. It was beautiful, but the isolation was unsettling. Inside, everything was sterile, cold, and there was no sign of the large crew we expected. No lighting rigs, no makeup artists, no production assistants. Only 3 or 4 serious-looking men, including Marcus, and a woman who introduced herself as the coordinator, not Elsa. My initial feeling of excitement turned to ice. Chloe, however, was still beaming, convinced this was the big leagues. The coordinator told us the first stream was starting in 30 minutes, and we needed to get ready in the studio room upstairs. When we got to the room, the door was heavy, steel, and locked from the outside by a key. There was one cheap ring light, a backdrop, and a low-quality camera setup. It was far from a professional operation. My gut was screaming. "Chloe," I whispered, "this doesn't feel right. Where is the real crew? Where is Elsa?" Chloe looked at me, her smile fading a little. They said it was a smaller, more intimate setup for the first day. Just then, the coordinator's voice came over a speaker. "Ladies, the stream is live in 5 minutes. Get into position." I was frozen. I walked over to the one window, but it was tinted and barred. I turned around and saw Chloe, who had already begun to disrobe, looking panicked. "I can't do this," I said, grabbing her arm. "We need to leave now." "We can't," Chloe cried, pointing at the camera. "We're already live. Someone is watching." Suddenly, the door was unlocked, and Marcus entered. He wasn't smiling. "The content is lagging. Fix it," he barked, his voice flat and menacing. "We're leaving," I said, putting myself in front of Chloe. Marcus took one slow step forward. "No, you're not." I lunged for the door, but Marcus was too fast. He grabbed my arm, his grip like iron. I screamed and kicked, hitting him hard in the shin. As I struggled, I saw the coordinator enter behind him, holding a small black box. Chloe finally reacted, trying to pull Marcus off me. But then I saw one of the other men rush in and put a cloth soaked with a sickeningly sweet chemical over Chloe's mouth and nose. Chloe went limp almost instantly. I was hysterical, but Marcus slammed me against the steel wall. I managed to kick his wrist, making him release his hold just enough for me to slip past him. I sprinted out the door and down the stairs. I ran through the cold, empty rooms until I found a service exit. I smashed the small glass panel and fumbled with the latch, cutting my hand badly. I threw the door open and scrambled outside, running blindly toward the electric fence. I didn't care about the risk, I just needed out. I squeezed through a gap near a malfunctioning gate hinge and kept running until I hit the main road. I flagged down the first car I saw, a family on a road trip, and they drove me to the nearest police station. The police raided the villa that night. They found the cameras, the single light, the locked steel room. They found evidence of multiple fake identities and international transactions. They arrested Marcus and the coordinator, but they never found Chloe. The investigators believed that Chloe was moved quickly after I escaped, likely trafficked across state lines, or even out of the country through Tampa's port. The entire operation contracts Elsa. The high pay was an incredibly elaborate trap designed to lure models into an isolated location. The live stream was just a way to confirm the victims were in the room. To this day, I check every missing person database. Every dark web rumor, Chloe is gone. I only survived because my paranoia was stronger than my desire for fame. The last image I have is her wide, terrified eyes, right before she was silenced. I'll never forgive myself for suggesting we go in the first place. I'm still modeling, but now I only work from my apartment, and I have 3 different security systems. I use my platform not for fame, but to warn every young creator about the darkness that hides behind legitimate-looking offers. This was before everyone knew what it really was. Back in 2018, a year or so after the platform was launched, I was in my room browsing Reddit when I suddenly saw a post that caught my attention. It was a link to a private gallery of a very popular girl from my University of Texas at Austin. I'd seen her on campus. She was outgoing, a sorority girl, the kind of person who seemed to effortlessly command attention. Back then, I was very introverted and quite socially awkward. I was a computer science major who spent all his time coding and studying. My social media was just a placeholder. The only reason I had an online presence was to blend in. I was the kind of guy who spent his money on collectible figurines and limited edition graphic novels. But when I discovered the model's Onlyfans, that changed. The idea that I could have exclusive access to the world of someone so far out of my league, without having to face the terrifying reality of speaking to her in person, was intoxicating. I subscribed instantly. Her name was Madison. I started pouring my Starbucks salary into her tips. I would send $50, $100 not for content, but for the thrill of seeing my username briefly flash across her stream with a thank you, anonymous, or a little personalized message. I told myself it was just supporting an artist. In reality, it was a desperate attempt to create a connection, a way for my small life to intersect with her vibrant one. I discovered the new feature, paid direct messages DMS, for custom content. I gathered all my courage, pooled a month's worth of savings, and requested a highly specific, personalized video where she mentioned one of the obscure academic awards I knew she had recently won. To my shock, she responded, not just with a video, but with a text message that started a real conversation. She was curious why I knew about the award. She noticed my very generous tipping history. We started talking daily. It moved from DMS to Snapchat, then to text. She was funny, smart, and completely different from the image she projected online. The irony was staggering. I had finally found a connection with a girl by paying her to look at me. But the real connection only happened when I stopped focusing on the content and started seeing her. She suggested we meet up for coffee at a small place off campus. I was ecstatic. I spent 2 days preparing a haircut, a new shirt, rehearsing what I would say. I was finally going to trade the sterile glow of my screen for the terrifying, wonderful reality of her presence. The day of the date, I arrived 10 minutes early. Madison was stunning. We were talking, laughing, and everything was going perfectly. As we finished our second latte, she suggested a walk back toward the campus park. As we crossed the street near the main quad, I saw him. A guy, mid-20s, dressed in a faded black hoodie, standing rigid by the War Memorial statue. He was staring, not at us, but directly at her. His gaze was intense, unblinking. "Don't look," Madison muttered, her smile instantly gone, replaced by a cold fear. "That's the collector." I frowned. "Who?" "He's an elder subscriber," she whispered, pulling me along faster. "He's been with me since I started. He knows too much. He calls himself the collector because he claims he owns every single photo, video, and screenshot I've ever posted. He started getting aggressive when I changed my content style. He sent me an email saying I was polluting his collection by going on a date with a stranger." My stomach dropped. I realized the level of obsession I had skirted with my own tipping. We reached the entrance to the park. The collector was still standing there, but now he started to slowly, deliberately walk toward us. His hands were stuffed deep into his pockets. Madison's voice was shaking. "He thinks he's my guardian. He is my real friends, telling them I'm a fake and they should expose me. I had to get a restraining order, but he still shows up." The collector picked up his pace. His eyes, now closer, were wide and red. He was breathing heavily, his face contorted into a mask of righteous fury. He was no longer just a weird fan. He was a bomb, ready to go off. "You are corrupting the muse," he screamed, the sound echoing off the quiet buildings. I instinctively stepped in front of Madison, holding my hands up. "Dude, back off. She's not interested." The collector stopped about 10 feet away. He didn't look at me. He looked through me, his focus entirely on Madison behind my shoulder. "She is mine," he hissed. "You are just a temporary distraction. The collection must be protected." He took a final step, and his hand flew out of his pocket. It wasn't a gun. It was a metal box, a heavy, chrome-plated lockbox. He hurled it with terrifying force. It struck me directly in the temple. The world exploded in pain and static. I remember falling backward, the smell of fresh-cut grass suddenly replaced by the sharp, metallic temps of my own blood. My head slammed against the pavement. I heard Madison scream, and then the noise of running feet his and hers. I woke up hours later in the university hospital. I had a severe concussion and a fractured skull. The trauma surgeons stabilized me. Madison was gone. She had run to get campus security, who found me and called the ambulance. The collector was caught an hour later, trying to board a bus out of town. The police found a backpack with dozens of printouts of Madison's photos, meticulously organized and labeled. I recovered fully, physically, but Madison deleted all her social media profiles, abandoned her Onlyfans, and transferred out of the university. She left a single note with the police for me. "I'm so sorry. I can't look at a screen anymore. The collector wins." I was the physical casualty, but she was the emotional one. I learned that day that some people don't see content. They see a commodity, an object to be possessed, and when they feel their ownership is challenged, they become monstrous. I never spoke to her again. I never opened that platform again. I still get headaches when I look at a screen for too long. The story I'm about to tell you is something that still has me in shock. Crazy things happen all the time, but what I experienced was, without exaggeration, something beyond imagination. This happened when I was living in Seattle and working as a freelance graphic designer. I spent most of my time either in coffee shops or glued to my computer. One of those people I knew vaguely from the local design scene was a girl named Alexa. She was incredibly popular, known for her vibrant, quirky style, and she had a massive following on every platform, including OnlyFans. She wasn't shy about it. It was part of her personal brand. Like many others, I was curious. I used a burner account and signed up for her free tier. Her content was professional and well-produced. I didn't stick around long, but the name Alexa and her prolific online presence remained in my periphery. One Tuesday morning, I opened Twitter and saw her profile was plastered across the trending page, but it wasn't for a new project. There was a series of chilling, badly written tweets. All caps. "Alexa has been taken. We have her. Ransom demand. $50,000 in Bitcoin. You have 48 hours." The profile picture had been replaced with a grainy, distorted image of a room that looked like a damp basement, with something indistinct, maybe a hand visible in the corner. The OnlyFans link in her bio now pointed to a pay-per-view post titled, "Final Masakh Roof of Life, Price, 5E. The whole city and her massive online community went into a frenzy. Was it real? A sick prank? A marketing ploy gone wrong? I, along with a group of her acquaintances, immediately tried to contact her, but her phone was off. Her friends called the police. The police were initially skeptical her online persona was high drama, but the sheer volume of her followers demanded action. Days went by. Her friends held online vigils. The news picked up the story. The consensus was divided. 50% feared the worst. 50% were certain it was a stunt. But one detail started to worry everyone. Alexa's dog, a small terrier mix named Skipper, hadn't been walked or fed for over 72 hours, according to neighbors. Alexa was obsessed with Skipper. She would never abandon him. The police tracked the tweet's IP address to a rotating proxy server, a dead end. However, they got a break on the Ethereum wallet, posted on the Onlyfans page. It was receiving tiny payments from thousands of users hoping to see the proof of life video. The police were able to trace a small outgoing transaction from that wallet, a payment for a premium VPN service. Using a warrant, they got the logs from the VPN provider. The logs pointed to a location in the remote San Juan Islands. A police boat was dispatched. They found a rental car parked near a deserted cabin. The lights were on. They entered cautiously, weapons drawn, and there she was. Alexa, sitting on the couch, laughing, watching a movie, eating a huge bowl of popcorn. Skipper was right next to her, happily chewing on a bone. She was arrested immediately. The whole story came out the next day. The police determined that Alexa, seeing her engagement numbers drop, had orchestrated the entire spectacle herself. She rented the remote cabin for a week. She set up the fake Twitter account and changed her OnlyFans links. The grainy photo was a deliberate FAKE dark corner of the cabin with her own hand posed awkwardly. The $50,000 ransom was never her goal. It was the 5ETH pay-per-view video that was making her money. Over 1,000 people paid the equivalent of $15,000 to watch a proof of life video that was just a silent, 5-second loop of a static screen. She was charged with filing a false police report, theft by deception for the ETH payments, and numerous other counts. The humiliation in the media was immediate and absolute. Her brand was destroyed. She was sentenced to community service and massive fines. The most disturbing part was not the greed, but the sheer emotional manipulation. She weaponized her community's love and fear for a quick buck. She made us all feel foolish, betrayed, and angry. Whenever I see a genuine news story about a missing person now, a little part of my brain, thanks to Alexa, always whispers, "Is this real? Or is someone just trying to sell a story?" When I first started on OnlyFans, I never dreamed that it would change my life in such a crazy way. I thought it was just a temporary experiment. I was living in Portland, Oregon, creating content focused on alternative fashion and body modification. I quickly gained a niche following and started making serious money. The platform gave me a sense of control and independence I'd never had. I met Liam at a local convention. He was a tattoo artist and seemed to be completely immersed in the same alternative world I was. He was charming, intense, and had this air of dangerous creativity that I found irresistible. When I told him about my work, he was supportive, even enthusiastic. He suggested we become content partners. He'd use his studio space and artistic skills to help me create highly stylized, unique videos that would set me apart. It seemed perfect. He didn't care about my past, and he was offering a creative advantage. But soon, the strange things started. Liam became intensely controlling over my content. He insisted I delete any photos that didn't feature him or his studio. He began to introduce bizarre, almost ritualistic elements into our strange symbols carved into props, burning incense with a sickeningly sweet, heavy smoke, and specific uncomfortable poses that felt less like art and more like performance for some unseen observer. He also became obsessed with my earnings. He insisted that all the revenue be pooled to invest in our shared content future. He bought expensive, unusual equipment that had nothing to do with filmmaking, high-end satellite phones, industrial-grade power inverters, and massive, thick-gauge chains. I tried to break it off several times, but he was incredibly manipulative, alternating between sweet, apologetic passion and cold, silent fury. I was trapped by the sunk cost eye. I'd invested so much time, and my entire career now depended on his artistic direction. Then came the trip. He told me he found the ultimate abandoned location for a legacy project, a multi-day shoot that would redefine my brand and generate millions. We drove 4 hours out of the city, way past any cell service, until we reached an old, derelict Civil War-era prison hospital deep in the woods of eastern Washington. The place was massive, stone, and reeked of mold and despair. Inside, he took me to a massive central ward. Instead of our promised lighting rigs, the room was lined with old cages that had clearly housed patients. In the center, there was a makeshift altar with the same strange symbols and burning incense. Betonetome, his eyes dead and cold. "This is where we create the final offering," he said. I looked down and saw a pile of items on the floor. Old, faded Polaroid photos. They were all women, some recognizable as models who had mysteriously vanished from the Ove community months prior. Panic seized me. "What is this, Liam? What is going on?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a heavy metal shackle from his backpack. "Our partnership is complete. Now, the transaction begins." I realized then that his side business wasn't art. It was a dark, personalized ring selling custom, fetishistic content to a small, wealthy clientele, likely involving the trafficking and abuse of creators in isolated, horrific locations. He hadn't met me by chance. He had scouted me based on my popularity and vulnerability. I screamed and pushed past him, running down the long, decaying corridors. His heavy footsteps echoed behind me. I scrambled through a collapsed stone archway and found myself in the old kitchen wing. I grabbed a rusted, thick metal pipe of support for a broken shelf and turned to face him. He saw the pipe, and his eyes narrowed, but he kept advancing. I swung as hard as I could, hitting him squarely in the chest. He staggered back with a grunt of pain. That gave me the moment I needed. I ran out of the hospital and straight into the woods, not towards the car. I knew he would catch me there. I ran through the brush for what felt like hours, not stopping until I stumbled out onto a logging road and found an emergency call box. The police found Liam at the hospital, nursing a fractured rib. They found the cages, the altar, the chains, and the Polaroids. The ensuing investigation linked Liam to a large-scale black market network operating outside the normal digital space. The missing models were gone. I survived, but I had to relocate, change my name, and delete all my content related to that period. Liam is facing multiple counts of kidnapping and trafficking. I learned that the anonymity of the internet doesn't just protect the creator. It also creates a perfect hunting ground for predators who use the language of partnership to draw you into their own personal horror. I'm going to be totally honest with you because I think it's necessary. Being a single mother in today's world and trying to have a normal love life is, well, let's just say it's exhausting. I have a 10-year-old daughter, Lily, and while I wouldn't trade her for the world, the label single mother does scare most men away. That's why I was so happy when I met Ben. He was a charming, stable investment banker who actually seemed genuinely interested in me and, critically, in Lily. He asked about her ballet classes, her homework, and even helped her build a complex Lego castle. After 3 months, I let myself believe that I had finally found someone who saw the whole me. But the red flags started to pop up. Extreme jealousy over male colleagues, rage when I was late because of a school function, and possessiveness over my phone. He started calling himself Uncle Ben to Lily, despite my requests to slow down. The final straw came when he got furious because I spent a weekend with my sister. His reaction was aggressive, full of personal insults about my parenting and my character. I ended it right there. The breakup was vicious. He called me relentlessly, sent vile, manipulative texts, and showed up at my work trying to cause a scene. I knew he was capable of malice. During our brief, intense relationship, I had made the stupid mistake of sending him some intimate, suggestive videos, not explicit, but certainly private. I was so convinced by his promises of commitment that I had let my guard down. When I ended things, I immediately deleted everything he had sent me. I assumed he would do the same. Primera, ja, wa, is wrong. 2 weeks after the breakup, my cousin, a college student, messaged me. "Aunt Sarah, is this you? Why did you make a free OnlyFans?" I froze. OnlyFans. I frantically clicked the link my cousin sent me. There it was. An active profile using my maiden name with a high-resolution, private video of me as the featured teaser. I created a fake account and subscribed to the free tier. The horror was immediate. Ben had uploaded nearly all the intimate videos and photos I had ever sent him, but he had edited them. He added obscene, dehumanizing captions and digitally overlaid my actual work address and the name of my boss onto one of the clips. I was being doxxed and subjected to revenge porn. But the worst came when I checked the profile's bio. It didn't just contain my work address. It had my daughter's school name, the cross streets of my neighborhood, and the exact time I dropped Lily off every day. He had published a roadmap for any disturbed person to find me, or worse, find her. The rage and fear were my professional reputation was at risk, but my daughter's safety was paramount. I collapsed, shaking, realizing my trust had put Lily in mortal danger. I immediately called the police and a specialist lawyer. This was beyond the reach of just reporting to the platform. The police were slow to act on the revenge porn, citing jurisdictional issues. But the threat to my daughter was enough to get a detective assigned. My lawyer immediately sent a cease and desist and a formal DMCA takedown notice to OnlyFans, providing my legal ID and proof of my ownership of the content. OnlyFans, thankfully, acted quickly on the takedown request due to the clear violation of my intellectual property rights and the doxing threat. The profile was removed within 24 hours. Ben was arrested a week later after the police traced the IP address of the uploads to his company apartment. He claimed he was just hurt and wanted to teach me a lesson. He was charged with doxing, harassment, and revenge porn. He lost his job and is now facing a difficult felony trial. I was forced to pull Lily out of her school and move us to a different state. We are safe. I had to change my entire life to deal with his 2 weeks of calculated vengeance. My experience taught me that the money, the fame, the followers, none of it matters. The only currency that matters is trust. And when you share your intimate self in the digital age, you are giving someone a loaded gun, hoping they have the decency not to pull the trigger. Always assume they will. Be careful, very careful. Thank you for listening. If you are a creator, please stay safe. If you have been affected by any of the themes in these stories, please seek help. There is always a way out. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you in the next one.